And just like that, we're back. I'm Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station. Welcome to the Daily Show. We're on a rocket ride today. Can't hang about. Chat to you in a minute. Let's bring on our first guest. It's only Ola and Dr. Mireia. Hello, you two. Can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated. I know you're under the clock, so let's get to it.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. Ola, nice to see you again. You won't remember, we met at a party. We had a long chat and you were absolutely charming, but you won't remember.
Oh, thank God for that.
It's the quarter of what you
I was watching what you're going to say.
You mean you're saying yeah, and we all throw our car keys into the middle of the room and I ended up with myself. Now then, this is a very, very, very interesting subject. Tell us all about it, please do. Just kick off.
Yeah. So basically, the discussion is based on the fact that women are finding it difficult to start conceiving. This information was gathered from an IVI survey that was conducted a few months ago, where women disclosed the main reasons why they thought they would be postponing getting pregnant. And obviously, it's a very interesting subject to discuss because postponing fertility, postponing getting pregnant will probably have an impact in the chances for women to conceive and have babies in the future.
Yeah.
And the main aspects probably why these women were putting that on hold was because of working and financial related issues, being these the main reasons why. That's normal. Women are the
and also because maybe they've got a lifestyle that they thought, well, it's not just about economics. Sometimes they think, well, I just don't want a kid. I want to keep traveling and having my own life.
Of course, we now have choices. We are we do have now the possibility to work, to be independent, to have traveling plans. We want to take care of ourselves. To have a healthy lifestyle, exercise, and so on. And it's normal that somehow women prioritize these things.
You lost me at that.
We have the right.
I'm hearing healthy lifestyle. You lost me at that point now. Having fun, healthy lifestyle. I don't actually think it's going to happen, but anyway, it should do. But I think life's too life's too short. It certainly feels like it when you stick to that. So how has this impacted on you? Because you had the baby, if I'm right, at 37. Is that correct?
Yes, when you would think that it's not that late.
Well, it's not late. 37.
Wow, yes, but obviously it was too late because then I had to go through IVF. I tried to get pregnant for about 3 years and I couldn't, and I had to result in having IVF, which was an amazing thing because in the end I got my beautiful baby girl, and I was very lucky that it happened first time with IVF.
That is lucky, isn't it?
It is very lucky, but
Ola, did you find it stressful? Because there's so many guests we've had on, and they've tried IVF, I beg your pardon, and either they've run out of money because it's darn expensive, or they think I can't go through this. Kind of a nightmare for them. So you really did pull a lucky card there. Thank goodness.
It is very stressful, and it's a waiting game. You wait for how many eggs you make, how many are fertilized, how many embryos are there for you to use. It's a waiting game, and it's very emotional waiting game. And you wait for this phone call to come through. Is there an embryo that you could be put back into you? Some women don't get that. They get phone calls saying there's nothing that survived. So, it's very, very hard.
I'm sorry to jump in because actually that's news to me. You have to wait for a phone call.
Yeah, you wait for a phone call for everything to grow, and it's a big process. It's and it's hard. It was hard for me more mentally than physically. Physically, it was fine. I mean, you do take medication and you have to inject yourself. But for me, it was the waiting process. Am I going to have that little embryo that I can use to have a baby?
Wow. But your daughter's happy, healthy, and...
My daughter is very happy, very healthy. She's 2.5 and she counts to 20. So she's doing pretty well. She's better than me at that age.
If she can count to 20, she's better than me at my age. So interesting. I always wonder about nurture and nature. Is she naturally sort of balletic and graceful?
Yes, she
I bet.
is. She's very sporty, actually. To be honest with you, more sporty than I was as a child, I think. Even though I'm a dancer, yeah, she's very sporty, very, very switched on.
Yeah.
More than me and my husband put together, which is great. Lovely.
Unlikely,
I don't know where she came from, really.
considering. I've got to just say one thing, which sounds terribly unprofessional. Everybody, stop messaging me. I can't send Neil the link. You'll have to wait until after this interview at 12:19. There you go. Can't do it now. So anyhow, what would you say to Neil? There was a link. You were sent it. Now, how difficult was it to decide to go down the IVF route? Was it like,
Yeah, that was very difficult.
Yes.
I always wanted to have a family. So my hopes were, right, I'm going to have this lovely career. I'm going to travel around the world and have this amazing life. But
Sounds
then
good.
after a
Sounds
while,
good to
I would
me.
want to have family. But so I always, wanted that.
Yeah.
So it came to the fact, we couldn't get pregnant for 3 years and we had to result in IVF. And then you go, oh, wow, this is really not happening. What if I can never have children? What if it's not going to happen for me? What if I'm never going to be a mom? That was very, very hard. I would say if anyone that, have to go through IVF, don't be scared of it, go for it, because it's amazing and amazing what you gave me.
And Ola, were you in there's a very interesting question coming in from America. He's one of the top people in the psychotherapeutic community over in Northeast United States in New York State, Azadon Brown. Ola, were you required to receive counseling during this process? Because I'm putting that question up now only in as much as you've just alluded to how stressful this can be, and there's a lot of mental issues with
yes
this as well.
Think if I remember correctly, I think there was something there from my clinic that I could speak to someone, but I didn't want to speak to anyone, to be honest with you.
Because you thought you had it sussed, or because you thought that would add to your stress? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I didn't want to speak with a stranger. I don't know. That was my personal thing, but I think there was something from my clinic to say, if you need to speak to anyone, we're here for you. Because it's very hard thing, because especially if all my friends had children naturally, I didn't have anyone to go to and go, right, what's happening? What do I do now if I have to go through IVF? So that was hard. As soon as everyone knew I was going through IVF, then I had people coming to me and going, I did IVF and I did IVF. And suddenly those people that I'd never had a clue that went through the treatments had IVF spoke to me. So suddenly I had loads of people to speak to. But before I actually said that I'm going through IVF, I didn't know anyone, because people don't actually openly speak about it.
And
so it was hard.
What made you decide to tell? You see, that's really so interesting, isn't it? That's the basis of I've got to tell you something. That's the basis of why we started men's radio station, where 50% of the audience, by the way, are female. I just want to let you know that. But it's not that. It's just a misnomer. Which I wish I could change the name, but it's too late now. But the thing is, with mental health, people don't talk about it, and we just wanted to open up, a sort of platform that people could talk. What made you decide to say to people, I'm having IVF, by the way?
To be honest with you, I was in an IVF clinic the first few times, and I could tell people were recognizing us.
Yeah, well,
and I wanted to come out my way. I wanted to tell my own story instead of someone saying, I saw James and Ola at the IVF clinic. I think I didn't want that. I wanted to do it my way.
I'm certainly not saying this about your clinic. Let me be very, very clear. But it has always been the case that the tabloids have moles inside every major hospital and every clinic.
No, I'm not saying anything bad about the clinic, but people
No. I'm saying the opposite. I'm not saying this applies to this clinic. But what I'm saying is you were very right to be cautious.
Yeah. People were recognizing us in the waiting room. Normal people that were going through IVF as well.
You're normal people.
Doing that to themselves.
You just did an abnormal job because we couldn't do it. Because I can just walk past the kitchen if I'm doing a paso doble. So it's of course they're going to recognize you, and they're going to be quite excited to. Yeah.
So I think for me, I needed to get it out. So and it was good. I got it out, and the questions stopped. My family stopped asking questions. My friends stopped asking questions. When you're going to have a baby? So it was good. It was a lot of pressure came off my
Doctor, why do
shoulders.
people do that? Why do I would say mind your own damn business. It's like
No, I know,
so
but it's natural. There's
intrusive.
many times I've asked my friends, well, when you're going to have a child,
Jeez, I've
without
never
thinking
asked that.
about it, or maybe she'd already tried to have a child for a
Yeah,
year. You
that's the
don't know,
thing.
do you?
That's the thing.
It comes from a good place. I think people's questions come from a good place.
Oh, we differ on that one, Ola. I'll tell you that for a start. I think it comes because they're just bloody nosy, quite frankly. And also because there's the other thing is the people who decide, women who decide, I don't want children, it's not for me, suddenly find themselves castigated, which is completely unfair.
Oh yeah, no, it's up to
That's
you.
not
It's
right.
your
Yeah,
decision.
completely.
Definitely, it's your decision. No one else's.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much pressure, but I think there's too much. First of all, congratulations on the fact that you made absolutely the right decision.
Thank you.
You cut off the press and the media and any space. You cut them off at the pass, and you said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and that's the only way to deal with these matters. So, doctor, are more and more people going for IVF these days? Excuse me, for going these days?
Yeah. We see an increasing trend of people and especially women seeking fertility advice. I think that's the right direction to go. First of all, because as Ola was saying, there's no shame in undergoing IVF treatment. It's sometimes necessary, and most importantly, there's an increasing trend of women starting to seek advice, to know the options, know the treatments that they can do to postpone getting pregnant, which is it's a choice, and that's right. As women, we should be able to decide when we want this to happen. Obviously, there's a limit, but it's good that you know that, and that's why there are plenty of fertility clinics to go. And we see at IVI London many women in this situation.
In your professional opinion, obviously, is there an upper limit to after which it becomes dangerous, or certainly has a higher degree of risk rather than I don't like the word dangerous, a higher degree of risk?
It's not about the risk really, because IVF is usually done through a non-invasive, well, it's not a non-invasive procedure, but it's a very low invasive procedure. So it's not about really the risks. It's more about the fact that there's a point where the chances are so slim that we wonder as professionals if it's really necessary. But from another perspective, from the emotional side of the things, some women need to go through that step and see that it's not going to work, so they can move on and look for alternative options, like, for example, egg donation, which is just IVF, but borrowing eggs from a young person.
And then what? What happens then?
Basically, it's an IVF treatment in which a donor, a young donor, a good prognosis patient, is willing to donate the eggs to a couple. Then we use the sperm of the partner in most of the cases to create embryos. And then these embryos are put back to the patient's womb. So they can carry a pregnancy. It's not going to be their genetics, because it's 50% the genetics of the donor and 50% the genetics of the sperm, the partner usually, but they at least have the possibility to carry a pregnancy, have an impact in the baby, because they are the ones carrying the pregnancy for nearly 10 months, and obviously breastfeeding the baby in most cases, and obviously they are true mothers to these children, right?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. And, you love unconditionally, isn't it? That's the great thing about love. There's no terms and conditions applied at the bottom of the contract. It is what it is. This is just coming in from Dave Sleet, who runs a company called ANA, which is a huge psychological company. The dynamic of being in control of our own narrative is a key part of coping with trauma. Choosing IVF is an empowering journey. I bet Ola agrees. Whatever the outcome, when supported ethically.
Yeah, I agree that, as Ola was saying, it's great to have support. Many fertility centers, and in fact, that's one requirement of the HFEA, that fertility clinics provide supportive counseling to patients. It's not an easy journey. The worst fear from patients is that this is never going to happen. So it's not starting the journey. It's not doing the injections. It's not getting drugs, hormonal drugs. It's more about the fact that, okay, what if I do everything that I'm told to do, and in the very end, there's nothing happening. That's the worst fear, and I
Yes.
completely empathize with that as a woman. It's terrifying.
How do you this is difficult in a very short space of time, but what is the best advice? What words do you find of comfort and of practical use to someone who's just found out, look, sorry, this just ain't gonna work?
Well, the first thing that I try to let patients know is that I am very sorry that they are in that situation, and I wish the journey had been easier, less bumpier, and obviously the fact that I want to be there for my patients and offer them any extra support that they may need. But at the end of the day, it's a personal grieving process that they have to do. You just want to support them, but also you want to be transparent, because it wouldn't be fair not to give false hopes, but it wouldn't be fair to let people try and try and try when you know that probably this isn't going anywhere. So you want to be transparent. You have to present the statistics. You have to go through the pros and cons of each option. And then we usually tell them, we will support you with your decision, but at least I want you to know all the information so you can make an informed decision. For me, that's the most important thing when things get very, very challenging.
The most interesting word that you used there was grieving.
Yeah, it does
And it's
feel like
very,
that.
very, very
Yeah.
apt, isn't it? Ola,
Yeah.
would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the realization that might never happen
Yeah.
was hard for me. Like, wow, that
Sure.
I would definitely say that's like grieving. That was
Yeah.
before I went for IVF. When my actually doctor said, you know, you have to go through IVF, the words was like, oh my God, it was really, really hard to take, really hard to take.
Sure.
But then when I started the process, you know, I read a bit more about it. I knew how good it was and how many children were born through IVF.
Right.
That helped me a lot. But actually, the starting point, when I've heard those words, you've got to go through IVF, that was very hard. And I would say that's like grieving. Yeah.
But you know, it's important then that I'm guessing that your husband or your partner, these modern times, that your partner is also supportive, but also feels that grieving process as well, because it's a shared experience, isn't it? Not a good one, but it's a shared experience.
I don't know what was your personal experience on this, but I what I see sometimes in the consultations is that we tend to speak to the female partner, because obviously she's the one undergoing the process. But it's very important to, you know, move your head and look at the other direction and see that there's a partner there supporting, undergoing the same process. They usually feel very, very frustrated about the fact that they are not the ones physically undergoing all these steps in the process, and that they have this feeling that they might be useless sometimes.
Well, you feel like a spare wheel, don't you? You feel like a spare
Yeah.
wheel in the car, stuck in the boat. I mean, like, what can I do? Nothing. And you
many
do
of
feel
them,
pretty
in fact,
useless.
ask like, okay, so when is it that I have to do something? It feels like they are not even participating in the process, because it's just about giving a sperm sample, right? But it's not like that. So it's very important to take this into account. You're treating a couple in many cases. We see more and more women undergoing this process alone, but the truth is that in most cases it's a couple, and you cannot forget about the male partner. It's very important to support them as well.
That's great. Now, I know that you two are packed today with interviews, because it's a hot button topic. Bless you for finding time to talk to Men's Radio. Bless you for having time to chat to me. Absolute pleasure. Ola, lovely to see you again.
Thank
Doc,
you.
always a pleasure. You're welcome back anytime. And congratulations on the baby. How lovely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And by the way, good luck with the terrible twos.
I know. Thanks.
Love them. Love them. She was charming. Now, I've got some stupid housekeeping to do, gang. So stay where you are, because I've got to do... Right, this is it. I'm putting this thing up, all right? Here we go. Let's get rid of that. I'm going to do a comment. And no, I'm not going to do that. Right, I'm going to do a banner. Give me a sec. And then you can just do this, Neil and everybody. Click on that, and you'll be laughing. Right, that's it. If you want to be part of the show, just click on that. So Neil, Ken, producer Ken, Neil, Longy Long, Liz Saul, and all the gang from the New Malden posse. Click on that and you can be part of the show. You were sent it. But hey, these things happen. What a week we've had. Are you exhausted? I'm absolutely knackered from it. Absolutely knackered from the whole thing. Did you watch it all? How did you feel? Did you have a good cry? Weird. We were mourning and crying. No, I was over someone I've never met. But the impact was so huge. I don't want to do a whole thing. I think everything that could be said has been said about it. But I do want to say this on behalf of the Daily Show, me. The troops, the armed forces were incredible. How the hell they literally, usually it's a metaphoric phrase, but they literally did not put a step wrong. It was fantastic to watch. Absolutely fantastic to watch. And the broadcasting media, who I'm normally pretty harsh on, but you didn't see a cable, did you? You didn't see a mic stand. You didn't see a wire out of place. It was Britain at its very finest. And without a doubt, it'll push, I know this sounds crass, but bear with me for a sec. It will push the tourist industry through the roof because London looked fabulous. Windsor looked fabulous. London, I mean, the sun was shining. They've just finished, which I watched for, I think, 3-4 years it took, the renovation of the clock tower, Big Ben as it's colloquially called, although it was the actual bell. And that has, as it was being unwrapped over the years of renovation and restoration, just gleaming in the sunlight, it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the commentators did brilliantly. It's so hard to do all of those things, you know, and just keep talking and finding interesting facts and things to say. So what were your views? What was the one thing that took, you know, the two things that set me off? I'll share with you the two things that set me off, and then I'll bring in the late Neil Long. The two things that set me off was one, I can see his little face. One was the cartoon. You know what I'm like with dogs, right? One was the cartoon of the corgi and no one at the end of the lead, and it's just looking. That set me off. Oh, that did it for me. And the other thing was at the end in Windsor, and the lone piper, nobody else around, and he's standing in like a long stone corridor, and he plays this lament, and he turns, and he starts to walk away from the camera. And as he's receding, the sound of the bagpipes starts to diminish. And then he just walks out of sight. Oh, my God. Anyway, here with his views, the king of New Malden, ladies and gentlemen. Neil.
Good afternoon. I could not find that link anywhere.
God, as my late mum
checked
used
all
to
the
say,
platforms.
if you want something doing, do it yourself.
Yeah, email, not there. WhatsApp, not there. Producer
You can tell Kent to
no
shut
link.
up, by the way. I can hear muttering in the 2 and 6 minutes. Shut up. Anyway, there you are. As it happens, it was just as well. I knew that Ola and the Doc sounds like the old Capital show, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Anna and the Doc. Did you used to love listening to that? Did you used to love listening to that? Oh, God, it cracked me up.
Yes, it could get quite saucy for the time of night as well.
God. The best thing was that Sandy Waugh, who we both know and love, and of course she was the kind of the host of that, the cheese in the sandwich between the doctor, whose name's completely gone out of my head, and Anna Rayburn, who scared the crap out of me, quite frankly. She was scary as hell. And I saw her in the corridor, hello, Anna, and I'd scurry away. But sometimes the conversations. Do you want to explain what it was, Neil? Do you want to explain what the show was? Otherwise, it's not in context.
It was the equivalent of, I suppose, Dear Deirdre, the problem page on the radio.
Yes.
It was basically a radio version of Dear Deirdre, but people wouldn't hold back, and they would ask very direct things, and Anna Rayburn would give them very direct answers.
Whoa.
And sometimes the subjects were, shall we say, would be frowned upon for being on radio that time of night, shall we say.
Because it wasn't late, was it? It was like 7 o'clock or something?
No. It was quite early. It was early evening, 7 o'clock. It just shows.
Yeah, it was 7. Yes, it was 7, wasn't it?
It just shows how much the programming's changed.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. This is in from Paul Claridge. Would you care to read it, Mr.
Sure.
Long?
I'm exhausted and I feel I haven't done anything. My friend's nephew is one of the guardsmen guarding the coffin. A mate of mine worked security for the queue, and a client of a friend of mine organised the entire funeral. Wow. Now, those people truly were busy. But you're right. It was absolutely flawless, wasn't it? It was
It
close
was
to
incredible.
close to flawless. It really was.
And just this to round up the Ola interview from Dave Sleep. We hope he's feeling a little bit better. Boy, oh boy, this guy been through the ringer. We and I have long conversations. The empathy, congruence, I never know what that means, and unconditional positive regard. Could you just, what's the matter? You swallowed a thesaurus today, Sleep. The empathy, congruence, and unconditional positive regard for those experiencing IVF, not going through IVF, allows the connectivity to strengthen the bonds.
But empathy, congruence, and unconditional positive regard.
Yeah, help me out. Help me out here. I'm drowning.
Well, that kind of openness, mutual openness, and attitude with each other will create strengthen bonds between people anyway.
Oh, I see where you're going with that.
If you have empathy, congruence,
I
and
was going to say,
unconditional
I
positive
knew,
regard, it's hard not to be
I-
bonded with someone.
Yeah, see, I knew we were under huge time constraints because they had to dash off exactly as I sent the message to you. They
You
had
did,
to
yeah, I
dash.
did see that one.
You got that, okay?
Mm.
So, if the male partner or husband feels really left out of it, it's very difficult because you feel like
That's not an angle that I would have ever thought of. It's something IVF not been on my radar before ever, but to hear it from all those different points of view, from the terrifying, is it going to work, or the husband feels a bit left out and all that sort of thing. I would never have thought of it that way. It's interesting, but it all ties in with mental health, doesn't it?
I didn't want to go into it, but it's incredibly bloody expensive too. It's very expensive, and you think, well, should we do it again? We have to sacrifice whatever it is. It is not cheap, and then you've got the mental strain of it. It's a whole big deal. It's a whole big deal. If you want to join the show and you're not completely bonkers, that is the StreamYard link. I rarely do that, but you can do that, and we can have a chit chat if you feel like it. Aza, if you just want to come on and say hello from Northeast New York State, it'd be absolutely delightful to see you. All you need is a laptop or a PC.
Can I share something?
I'd be delighted, honoured, and privileged.
A friend of mine rang me yesterday, and she's very tearful, and she has OCD, and it was really playing up. And I would love to do some more on this show about OCD.
Let's do it, fella.
All right.
You've never. I hate to say this because it kills me, but you've never come up with a bad idea yet. Every time you say to me, Russell, I'd really like to do it, and I'm going like, well, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do
my best?
Yeah, I mean, do it. Do my
best. It's because people use the phrase. People say, "Oh, I'm a bit OCD about that. I'm a bit OCD about hygiene." Someone said to me, but that isn't OCD. And
That's not OCD at all.
No. And a friend of mine lined up all the glasses when we were having a quiet pint last night.
I do that.
And people teased him. Are you OCD? That's not OCD.
I do that because it just annoys me if they're higgledy-pig. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, get over it.
But OCD it can really wreck your life. And
oh God, yes. Give some examples, because you know it better than I do.
The worst thing about it is, if we're dealing with like two levels of mind, if you like, conscious and below the level unconscious.
Okey-dokey.
And the conscious part of the sufferer knows it's ridiculous. That's the logical mind. And they know it's ridiculous. But the unconscious has such this compulsion to complete the ritual. Best if I give an example. Okay. You think, let's say you're actually, I see what you mean, Dave. You can't be a bit OCD. That's like
you're either OCD or you kind of not.
You're a little bit pregnant.
A little bit. Yeah, I love that. When someone's making a decision, I say, well, you know what? You've either got to do it or not do it. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You either are or you're not. Make a decision.
People
be right, be
use,
wrong, but just do it.
People use the phrase, Dave. They say, I'm a little bit OCD, which it's kind of got into pop culture, if you like. And I think it kind of waters it down because people, it's a bit like saying someone he drinks a bit too much, and everyone does that, and you don't really think too much about it until you see someone with a full-blown alcohol problem, and you go, oh. And it's the same sort of thing. It kind of waters it down a bit, but going back to check your door to see if it's double locked or doing it once, that's not OCD. Never getting to your destination because your anxiety is so high you can't leave the house and you have to keep going back again and again and again and again and again and again. That's OCD.
I don't think people realise the door, for example, and I don't know much of it's not an area that I'm not going to pretend I know a heck of a lot about, but the locking the door thing, all of us sometimes get halfway to the bus stop, oh, geez, did I switch that? And sometimes you have to go back. That doesn't mean you've got a problem. But you go back once.
You go back once. That's absolutely fine. Go back to check.
What you don't do, gang, is you don't go back something like 18 times.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about with OCD. My cousin, who lives in Australia, I haven't seen since I was a kid, he had OCD about washing his hands, apparently, and it got worse and worse. Let me give you an example on that.
You would think everything is contaminated, okay?
Yeah, well, I do, actually.
If I were to touch this computer screen, okay, I would then think, ooh, that's contaminated, so I'd have to go and wash my hands. But I wouldn't do it once. I would think, I haven't done it properly. I haven't done the ritual, the kind of ritual to cleanse the bad thought, if you like, properly. So you do it again. And people's hands are red raw.
Oh, yes. This was him. This was him. It's so interesting you say this. This is my cousin, my other cousin, Francie. You won't know, it's Morris. And I've got a cousin called Morris. And to be honest, I don't even know if he's still alive, but he went and lived in Australia. And it was nice. We were kids together. We kind of grew up together, but I haven't seen him since then. But he would wash his hands, and then he'd have to open the door, right? Obviously, or go from one room to another. And the moment he touched the handle, to go back and wash his hands again. Apparently it got really, really, really bad. He was such a nice fella.
And it can lead to depression and anxiety, and it can be absolutely crippling. It can be absolutely crippling.
Yeah, he woke up one morning and his entire 50% of his body was paralyzed. Unbelievable. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that was meant. I don't know what caused it, but literally he was fine. Woke up and he hadn't had a stroke, by the way, and he was young and couldn't move half of his body. So God only knows. Coming back to Dave Fleet, up in Fife in Scotland. Exactly, Neil. It's a natural way of developing an acceptance of something that is not truly understood.
Yeah, nicely put, Dave. Because we like to explain things, and we like to understand things. And
so, do you know, Pete? Do you know experts? It's a very big subject. We should try and cover it. If you know,
we can.
People.
I can put something together if you like. I would like to find people who have overcome it, because it is overcomable.
That would be, like, how did you do that? How did you overcome? How did you do it?
Pick things that people struggle with mentally, and we find people that have overcome them. That'd be pretty good. Just
because nothing.
Just doing my brainstorming live on air.
I think. Well, why not? Blue sky, and all that. Let's run it up the flagpole. See who salutes it. They. God, I used to hate those meetings. Christ. Anyway, the thing about it is, nothing is so impactful as someone who's gone through something, lived that experience, good or bad, and then tells you how they overcame it. Because you'll always get, even if the whole thing, it's so easy to say, that doesn't apply to me. But if you look deep, there'll be one, even if you get out of the show, one nugget of truth that you can apply to your own life. Well, that's a success in my book. So if somebody's got OCD, whatever it might be.
Very much.
So let me ask you this, Neil.
Go on.
I have all my spices in 2 spice racks, which I do. They're in alphabetical order, which they are. Plus, I have to have the labels facing forward. Every label in my cupboard has to face forward. That's not OCD. I think that's just convenient. Oh, God.
What are you asking me? Are you asking me if that's OCD?
Well, that was a kind of question, but it wasn't wrapped up properly as a question. It was open.
Okay. Fair enough. But do you think that if one of those labels was turned to the side, that something terrible would happen to someone that you love?
But
then you don't have OCD.
No, I did have for years, and I'm being very open about this, for years or decades, manhole covers, drain covers on the pavement, and I kind of almost still do it. I have to walk to the right of them.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm better now. I can actually But I actually, this is so bloody weird. I don't understand what it's about either. It started at school that I would have a good day. I was at boarding school. If I walked to the right of the drain covers, manhole covers, and open drains, I'd be okay. And if I walked to the left, it's all coming back to me now. Bad things would happen.
And I used to do that as well, pretty much.
Weird,
with
isn't
the tar lines on my road. So it starts young, and you've hit on something, and you've hit on an explanation of how I can say something like the conscious mind knows it's ridiculous, but you still can't help doing it because the deeper mind, which doesn't have the logical, critical faculty, if you like, is trying to keep you safe. And it probably goes back to, as my friend yesterday, she felt she'd taken an action and something terrible was going to happen because of that action she had taken. But there was no direct cause and effect. It'd be like me dropping these glasses and a plane crashes in Mongolia. You know what I mean?
You bastard.
Huh?
You utter bastard. How many people have you've just killed? God knows how many people there. Could have been
Or
people
not.
on the ground. So it could have been some yaks. It's Mongolia. Could have been some yaks.
Or not, as the case may
Or
be.
not.
But people
Okay. We shall have to watch the news.
People really do feel that they are responsible for things happening like that. If they had a thought about something like that happening and it happened, they would think that they had caused it, and then they would think they're a really evil person, and then they would get very depressed and low. It's a big thing.
But explain this to me. I'm a reasonably rational person. Aza, I'm going to put your comment up in a minute, but it'll hide both Neil and I, which of course is a mercy in many cases. Could you tell Fanny Craddock to keep it down in the kitchen? They or is it Rufus? Is it Rufus or Tyler's? Oh, good. This is funny. This is coming in from Aza. It's Aza's smaller comment.
I actually just did call her Fanny Craddock. Now I'm in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, you bet you are. Ross K, my wife is amused by the fact that I have all of my cabinets organised and the labels face forward. But you don't want to face them backwards, and you don't know what the hell you're looking at, do you? I mean, it's only logic. And we do this big one there. Would you like to read this, Neil, if you'd be so kind?
OCD is a very common feature of those with higher education. Oh, that's interesting. I've not heard this before. Personally, I battled features of OCD for several years. What I've learnt is it can either control you or you can learn to control it. It doesn't have to control your life. It's all about the perception of control. True.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But not everyone knows they have that control because it feels more powerful than
So
you.
why is it when I'm walking Ebony, which is, obviously every day or twice a day, right? And I think, or if I'm walking to the bus stop, man of the people, Wolfie Smith, if I step on a drain cover or everything, I have to steel myself. And I'm thinking, for God's sake, this is utterly ridiculous. It's not medieval. What the hell am I doing? But why? Why?
Well, the thing is, you're doing the therapy without knowing it. If you steel yourself and walk over it and say, okay, now I've done it. Now let's see if something bad happens.
Yeah, but if something bad happens, I'll go, because it's stepped on the drain. This is how there's no logic to this. I'm totally aware it sounds bonkers. There is
it does,
no
but most of
logic
the
to
time,
this.
nothing bad will happen because none of the time, nothing bad will happen because you walked on the drain. Occasionally, there might be a coincidence, but 99% of the time, nothing happens. And then you learn that there's no causal connection between you walking on the drain and that.
Do you remember Peter Cook and Dudley Moore?
Jump. There was no blanket. Yes, I do.
Peter Cook and Dudley Moore did a wonderful sketch, and it wasn't the Derek and Clive, so I'm not going to be rude. Don't worry. It was as Pete and Dud, and he goes, "Do you believe in God?" Well, I don't know. So they have to. I won't do the voices, but I was obsessed with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore when I was at school and as an adult, and they did this thing, which is it goes right to the heart of what we're saying, and it's a comedic sketch, and yet there's this monstrous dollop of truth in it, and it goes like this. And I'll paraphrase the sketch because I haven't got it ingrained in my memory. And it's like, do you believe in God? Well, I'm not sure. I like to test whether I believe in God. So if I get the flu, I pray that it will go. And then the other one, I think then Pete says to Dud, yeah, but it was probably going to go anyway. He says, yes, but I test whether I believe in God and whether God exists. So if I've got the flu, I say, please make me better by 3:45 on Wednesday. I haven't heard the sketch for probably 30 years, but I've never forgotten it because it's like, how far do you want to push it? Like, please make me better. Please make me better. And you're better. Oh, suddenly God exists. Please make me better by 3:45 on Wednesday. God definitely exists. I mean, it's a silly sketch. It's a clever sketch, but there's a huge grain of truth in it, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's it. Just yup.
Yeah.
No, shouting yup doesn't help.
Oh, sorry.
I thought it was going to be like,
I see
I thought
exactly
it was
what you
going to
mean.
be a bit more like,
Many a true word said in jest and all that.
oh, well, but that's the point about humor, isn't it? The point about humor is way deep, deep down, even the most absurdist satire, there's a truth. That's the thing about comedy, comedy. I hate it when people start analyzing. There's nothing more boring like when John Cleese starts analyzing humor. It's like, oh, reach for the off switch, because it's either funny or it's not funny. You find it funny, it's comedy. You don't find it funny, it's not comedy. It's comedy to somebody else. It's not comedy to you. There's nothing more to be said on it. Just because you don't find, I mean you, Neil, but I mean, you don't find it funny doesn't mean it's not funny. Other people can be cracked up in an audience. You're sitting there with a stony face, as I do sometimes. You think, well, I'm not finding it funny. Doesn't mean he's good, bad, or indifferent. It just means I don't find it funny. You don't need to analyze it any further than that. That's the basis of it.
No.
That was like when I went to see the Ricky Gervais warm-up show, the tryout show for his new show, which will be called at the moment, the working title's Armageddon. It was one I talked about it before, but the audience were going. I mean, I was going, everyone was going, oh, no, but we were laughing. And here's another thing to discuss with you, right? We were creased up laughing, but a whole audience in this new venue in London where he was doing, he got the notes in his hand and everything, right? Was going, no, and we were all, because you can see up and down the road, we were all going, no, but we're laughing because we're also embarrassed that we shouldn't be laughing at what he's saying, but we're finding it funny. So we are laughing, but we're kind of acknowledging, oh my God, that's about as extreme, as you can.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's the draw of the inappropriate, isn't it?
It is, but it's like, I wonder why we have to do that, because I'm not being ridiculous. All of us were going, no.
Well, it's body language. I hope nobody can see me. It's like the little kid that goes, "You can't see me," and it's like, I don't want to be seen laughing at this. I shouldn't admit to finding this funny, but I do.
Or John Cena, can't see me. That's a wrestling thing, by the way. John Cena can't see me. I never understood that, but anyway, he made millions from it. So what the hell do I know? Right. Hello. Let's go from Galveston. Oh, Galveston. I can hear Julie's voice. Julie voice coming in from Galveston, which is in Texas. Oh, please help me out. Please tell me it's Texas. Is it Texas? Galveston? Must be somewhere there, isn't it? Go on. You know you're going to sing the song. Yeah. Well, you can't see the name Galveston and not sing. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Is it? I've got another question for you. Right, so that's Julie coming in from Galveston, which I believe is Texas. My American geography. My American geography is better than my British geography. It's this. Why is it? I'm a lineman for the county, like the Wichita lineman. If it was like the Clapham Common lineman, it would have to be sung by Benny Hill. The Wichita lineman, sung by Glenn Campbell, a romantic, wonderful, moving, emotive song. Route 66, an exciting rock song that takes you on a journey through America. M25, you couldn't write a song about that because no one cares, because it doesn't go anywhere.
Unless you count The Road to Hell by Chris Rea.
Chris Rea, yes, that's right. If he sets off now, he might just get home for Chris.
No, I love the meme that went around a couple of Christmases ago. It said, "Has anyone seen Chris Rea? I'm starting to get worried." Oh, hello. You're right.
Hello. I've always wondered why it is that American names just sound exciting and British names just sound ridiculously pedestrian.
You've got me thinking. I can imagine Benny Hill doing that now.
I'm a lineman for Clapham Common.
For the county.
And I put down the power lines. It'd be absolutely bonkers, wouldn't it? It would just be.
Yeah.
It never works. We have a much more self-depreciating sense of humour here in the UK, and I don't think we can take it seriously. I'm a lineman for Manchester Council. It won't work. It just won't work. And the roads and everything like that. New York. It's an exciting, fabulous tune.
New York is popular still.
That was the last song we played on The Breakfast Show. You know
Was
that?
it?
The very last song we played, when finally Chris Tarrant had freedom of choice. Ultimate irony, the producers then came and said, "We really like the music." It's because we had freedom of choice to play what we wanted on that very last show. And the last song we played was New York, New York. And we all danced. It was, oh. And then we went out into the main room and everyone was crying.
Really?
I love Ricky Gervais, says A.Z. Don Brown. His comedy has the ability of addressing topics that we're all pandering or have considered. Totally right. Totally
Yeah,
right.
because he says what people think and people don't dare to say in polite society. And that's why we're like that.
It is, and the other argument, and this is a good thing from Paul. Paul Claridge has a new job. Congratulations, part of the men's radio station family. Paul Claridge, thank God, has stopped that bloody awful job he had for years, where he was getting beaten up, literally, well, several times a week. He's got a new job where he's not getting beaten up, so that's got to be a plus. One of the best songs of recent years, "A National Express." I love that song. That's a great song by the Divine Comedy. I couldn't tell you who it was by, but I remember it. It's a very, very good song.
That's a great song, National Express, Divine Comedy. It's a very, very,
Are you rebuilding Jodrell Bank there? What are you doing? Or creating the
I'm
Large
simply,
Hadron CERN collider?
That's exactly what I'm doing. Yes, I'm building a nuclear reactor. No, I'm
Is it
plugging
just
the
you and
computer
Ken
in.
building this reactor? You got planning permission, or you just doing it anyway? Probably don't need
No
it.
planning permission. We're just doing it.
New Malden,
But I will
they'll be
stay on
happy
there
to
now.
see it. They'll be pleased.
So do you want me to find some OCD type people and see
Yes,
if we can
Yeah. Let's
you'll
dash
be able
back
to
to
see.
Texas. We've been to Northeast states, so let's jump on a plane and fly down to Texas. Yes, it's in Texas, having a couple of days away from Houston. Oh man, I was planning to be out in Texas for my birthday, but my plans have gone horribly awry, so I will not be going to see my son, who now lives in Texas, and having a whale of a time, may I say. My God, oh man, what a life! What a life! I put my foot right in it. He when he went there, he was in constant contact. Now, naturally, I don't hear from him, but he wasn't the first few weeks he was there. And he went, "Oh, went to the Alamo," and I wrote back. I said, "Oh, son, that's so good, because if you're in a new place, it's really good to submerge yourself and immerse yourself in the culture." The popular culture and the history. He went, "Dad, the Alamo is the name of the local cinema." I felt such a dick.
Very good.
But it's true. It's not a gag. It's true. I was so proud of him for like 30 seconds. And then I thought, no, he hasn't changed. It's still completely impossible. Right. Divine Corridor. If you haven't heard that song, the National Express, it's about a coach journey, and it's beautifully.
And someone's observations on said journey.
And the I can't do it. It would be too rude. But there's a line about the hostess
selling drinks, crisps and tea and theatrical winks for a sky-high fee. I know the line you mean.
Well, we won't do it. It refers to.
I know what you mean.
Let's just say she's not slim. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, there we are. Yeah, and I'm sorry about the beginning of the thing. That Ola was very, very charming. It's very interesting that it brings on to another topic, and I'm not jumping on a train here, but when Ola said we were in the waiting room and people recognized us, you're not going to get away with it. By mean getting away with it, I don't mean like you've done a bank robbery. What I mean is the world is a scuttlebutt. Everything. And I didn't want to talk about it, but like Kenny Everett was dobbed in. They only realized that he had AIDS because somebody in the clinic phoned up the press when Kenny came in for treatment.
Is that right?
That is exactly right.
Oh, God.
It's exactly how that happened. Otherwise, he would have been private. He was a very, despite his exuberant on-air personality, off-air, he was the quietest, most charming, self-effacing, nothing that you would imagine. He was really, you wouldn't think he was the same guy, which is great.
I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but this is what I heard about
Did you not? Did you never meet Kenny? Oh, yeah. It was interesting. He was my radio hero. And when my best pal as a little kid, was Nicky Horn. Nicky Horn and I would hang out. And our hero was Kenny Everett. We just thought he was fantastic. Never either of us dreaming that one day we'd meet him, let alone both be employed by the same radio station. You know, we were kids. We were kids. But our love of radio was that Nicky had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I'd get on the bus to Palmer's Green, Redmondton sort of thing. And we'd make these, we'd go up to Nicky's bedroom, and he had this TDK tape recorder, and we'd make these radio shows, not to send to anybody. Had no interest in, I didn't want to do radio, but we just loved making the shows just for our own amusement. I think we were like
I did that.
14, 15 years old, and we just did it and mucked about. It was great.
Yeah, I did.
And you
that.
did the same thing.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And my hero was Chris Tarrant.
You serious?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I'm not being rude. I mean, yes, he was a brilliant broadcaster, brilliant. The trick of making it all look so utterly easy and, you know, simple to do. I had an interesting situation yesterday, but it was weird. It was a weird thing with Kenny. As I said, one, he was dobbed in by somebody at the clinic, which was very upsetting. You know, you want to do these things at your own agenda, don't you? In your own timetable. You don't want it forced.
Of course you do, yeah.
And we've all seen a recent When PR Goes Wrong is a new show for Simon Withington. When PR goes horribly wrong, Beckham gets it right and another two. For whatever reason, it explodes. But, you know, if you've made a mistake, and you and I have talked about this a lot because we're both kind of honest but very stupid in so many ways, is you make a mistake, you put your hands up. Guys, I screwed up. I messed up. It's my fault. I'm really sorry. That's kind of the end of the conversation. You know, you've said, I'm sorry. I've made an error. When you double down, you better be bloody sure of your facts. You better have all your ducks in a row. And that tightness better be watertight, or you are going to sink like a stone.
Although, I mean, there's a petition with something like 21,000 signatures.
37,000 now.
27.
Can't see the point. I can't see the point. What the hell?
I really don't think a backlash like that is fair to them.
It's nonsense. But I think it's because, you know,
it's cancel culture, and the penalties are very, very high. Yeah, and I don't see why people should have their
I don't like that. I mean,
on people's self-righteousness.
I've been thinking about it. We're talking about Holly and Phil. Number one, I never watch daytime TV. It's my rule. I never have the TV on before earliest 7 o'clock at night, probably 8 o'clock at night. I won't watch it. So it's irrelevant. To me, it's irrelevant. I don't care one way or the other. Don't watch it. I think people, because of a sense of grief, and we all know, because we've had grief counselors on, Neil, and, you know, we've talked about it extensively, and you've talked about it very eloquently, that with grief, one of the stages is anger. But who are you going to be angry with? You're going to be angry with God. You're going to be angry with the Queen. She was 96, for heaven's sake. What a wonderful, wonderful, magnificent life Her Majesty had. So you're going to look for an easy target. I'm not a fan of either of them, to be honest. But there again, it's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter. It's not aimed at me any more than any of those shows are. You know, Loose Women, it's irrelevant to me. I don't watch it. But people just want to be angry. So it's kind of like,
but they shouldn't have to take the backlash of that. I mean, I do quite like Phil and Holly, and and just on a human level, from a mental health level, for goodness sake, to have that amount of people turn on you for what could have been innocent. They could have been asked by someone senior to do a production piece, which is the reason they put out. They could have been.
Well, let's put "could" in inverted commas. Could have been.
You know,
not saying it wasn't.
And do people deserve to have their careers wrecked, their livelihoods wrecked over one mistake? God, if that
if you're Gary Glitter, yes.
Careers.
If you're Gary Glitter, matey, yes, your career should be destroyed.
Well, okay, that's different.
There you are. But of course, that sends another moral. That's another moral thing. We'll come back to Phil and Holly. This is another moral thing, right? Gary Glitter, no radio station. They still played at some American events, oddly enough. But no radio station in the UK will ever play his music again. You can't.
I did hear someone play one of his songs. It was the Jive Bunny Christmas song, which had a bit of his song in there.
Had a bit in it, but they probably forgot it was in there, but in the mix.
So I did hear that, but I take your point, yeah.
But But there again, if you take that, you'd say, but Michael Jackson's played all the time. And then somebody would say, well, hang on, Michael Jackson was never proven guilty. He went to trial. He was found not guilty. And you go, oh, well, come on. Why would you give 20 million quid to somebody just because you feel whatever, right? Whatever. The reason being, you can live without Gary Glitter's few hits. They were bloody good pop records. I mean, I thought he was disgusting and revolting human being and a horrible person in real life, but they were very good pop records. Sorry.
Yeah, he didn't write them.
No, he had nothing to do with them. He was the front man, you know. It was interesting. I never told you this, but the Glitter Band, who had nothing to do with this, they were his backing band, the Glitter Band, reached out. Was there anything I could do? When I was doing music management, when I was completely mad, worst decision I ever made. And I said, I'm so sorry, guys. No, absolutely nothing. You're the only value you have was that you were the Glitter Band when that was a great thing. Had he not turned out to be a disgusting human being, you could have carried that on. But he has. It is what it is. You can't, you know, to use that name, it's like you're calling yourself the Adolf Hitler Band. I mean, it's just horrible. You can't do anything about it. Absolutely can't do anything about it at all. What is Liz Saul, the delightful Liz Saul, saying here?
I did that with Mum's old tape recorder, making radio shows. Made a little radio program, voicing everything, jingles, news, music. You could tell my influences, which included Radio 1, Monty Python, and Barry Manilow. Blimey, that's a combination.
Wow. Blimey, O'Reilly, what a combo that is. What was the Barry Manilow? How do you get right from Monty Python to Barry Manilow?
I have no idea.
No, you need to ask her at some point. Or drag her in front of the mic. We can ask her now if she's there. Well, she's not there. I have no idea. You know, it's a mystery. The whole of New Malden, mystery to me. It is interesting how we draw the lines. Like, you know, Gary Glitter, yeah, we're banning Michael Jackson. We won't ban him because we like because the songs are so good and there's so many of them. We just couldn't do.
That was the thing with the Michael Jackson thing. Excuse me, got to turn the.
Oh, that's a nice view. You're exciting. You're exciting women all over the world now.
With the Michael Jackson thing, I was able to separate my liking of his songs from what he was alleged to have done. So
he was a genius. He was a genius.
Yeah, so I could appreciate the music.
A genius.
The same I have to say with R. Kelly. I used to have also whole pubs when I did pub gigs singing along to Rolf Harris, Two Little Boys. Can't do that anymore.
Sure.
But the work they produced was great, and it was such a shame.
I was an unashamed, massive fan of Rolf Harris. I thought he was
I.
talented and clever, and then you find this, and you think, oh God, please let me find someone from like childhood and you know and things that you know haven't been completely destroyed. Liz, what? Right, go on, we're listening. Go on, Barry Manilow and Monty Python. Explain. You got 2 minutes.
I decided to make my own little radio program. I was about 5 or 6 years old. Mum's old tape recorder, big clunky thing.
5 or 6?
Yes, and Mum loved Barry Manilow music. So there were lots of vinyls around the house of his music, stuff like that. So that's influence number one.
Right. Good.
So I heard a lot of his music. She liked Monty Python as well. Now, the reason that came into it is because I decided in my news segment to do a story about a man being found guilty of something in court. And I quoted the judge by saying, you can guess it, he's a very naughty boy. So that was the Monty Python bit.
Hilarious.
And then I sung all the jingles as well. And I actually sung Radio 1 at the time, their news jingle. You hear it over and over. I just sung it. And then Barry Manilow, I sang the song. I think.
How did you
sung the songs that made the world?
How did you on earth at 5 or 6 do that? I mean, when Nicky Horn and I were making our shows just for our own amusement, never sent them to anybody, by the way.
Well,
we were like 14, 15.
Mum's a journalist, so she had little dictaphones, tape recorders all around the house. My grandparents were the first people I knew that had not just a video player, but a video recorder.
Get them.
Yeah, Mum and Grandma and Grandpa were way ahead of the curve with things. So Mum had about 3 or 4 dictaphones, tape recorders, and there's where my love for radio came.
It's interesting. I think mine came from sitting around Sunday lunch with my mum and dad. It was our ritual when I was very little, and listening to the programs. And that's where it came. But it was all speech based.
Mm.
See, it was all speech based, and I love it. Gang, that's it. Neil,
Thank you.
Liz,
I'll see you
all
Monday.
six. I will see you. I need to talk to you about Monday. You may be flying solo. The weight on your shoulders. And there is producer Ken. Looks like a little
Mr.
family.
E.
Looks
The
like
whole
the
gang.
chainsaw. Looks like the Chainsaw Massacre poster. Right, everybody. Bye, gang. See you Friday.